10 records, 10 artists. 10 moments that stopped traffic in the 90s. We're talking songs that shut down every radio in America, took over every block party from coast to coast, rattled the trunks of every car in every parking lot that entire decade. These weren't just hits, they were events. And then overnight, the people behind them were gone. Not off the charts, off the radar. Some of you still sing these in the shower. But the stories behind why these artists disappeared, that's what nobody ever went back to tell you. You know the songs. Today we go behind them. Chill like that. I'm chill like that. I'm chill like that. I'm chill like that. Number 10, Quad City DJs. Coming and Ride It, The Train. Here's what the mainstream never told you about this song. Before Quad City DJs ever put anyone on a train, J Ski and CC Lemonhead had already given you two of the biggest party records of the decade. In 1993, they were 95 South, putting out Woot, There It Is. Before that, they produced Tootsie Roll for the 69 Boys. Three of the most inescapable anthems of the early to mid-90s, all coming from the same two people out of Jacksonville, Florida. Miami-based architects who understood one thing, how to build a room stopper. And in 1996, they did it one more time. Coming and Ride It, The Train, peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Village Voice, not exactly a pop publication, ranked it the number 1 song of that entire year. That horn sample, that building energy, that moment where the floor changed and everybody in the room decided at the same time. If you were at any function between 96 and 97, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You remember that feeling. But here's where the story gets complicated. That same year, they wrote and performed the theme song for Space Jam, Michael Jordan's Space Jam, and the biggest cultural event of 1996. They had the song of the year, they had the movie of the year, both at the same time. And the Space Jam theme peaked at number 37 on the Hot 100. The movie was everywhere, the song barely cracked the top 40, and then the follow-up, Summer Jam, went to number 27 on the rap singles chart. No crossover, no mainstream momentum. The window had opened and closed faster than they could capitalize. You can make the hottest record of the year, you can attach your name to the biggest film of the year, and still, the industry moves on before you had a chance to figure out what just happened. Quad City DJs walked out of the spotlight that year and never walked back into it. That feeling of being right there, right on the edge, and then watching the moment pass, that's the theme of this whole list. Number 9, Tag Team, Whoomp, There It Is.
The old school, cause I'm an old fool who's so cool. If you wanna get down, I'ma show you the way.
This record was not a hit. Let's be accurate, it was a phenomenon. Whoomp, There It Is, by tag team Cecil Glenn and Steve Gibson out of Atlanta, didn't just chart in 1993, it lived in 1993. It was in the mall, it was at the cookout, it was on every sports broadcast in the country. It landed at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed in the top 10 for 14 weeks. It was the second best-selling single in America that entire year.
DC's in the house, jump, rejoices. There's a party over here, a party over there, wave your hands in the air.
First single they ever put out. And there's a layer to this that people forget. Right around the same time, 95 South, those same two guys from Jacksonville you just heard about, dropped Woot, There It Is.
Find 100 dips to dip it in. Slam dunk it, stick it, flip it, and ride that B-double-O-T-Y.
Same concept, same energy, different spelling. For about 5 minutes, the streets were actually debating which version was the real one. 2 records, same title essentially, both charting at the same time. Tag Team won that battle decisively.
When one mic check, my skill blow ill on the mess of steel. That's the grill of the microphone I just killed.
And Whoomp went on to become one of the most recognizable samples in sports entertainment history to this day. But here's what didn't get talked about. When success hits that fast, debut single, no build-up, straight to the top of the mainstream, you don't always have the infrastructure to sustain it. Tag Team was signed to Bellmark Records, and Bellmark filed for bankruptcy in the mid-90s.
That's a breath taker. I produce, aka The Undertaker. You want to come down to the under.
When your label folds, your momentum folds with it. It doesn't matter how hot the record was. The machine that was supposed to carry you to album 2, it collapsed, and you collapsed right alongside it.
Upside down and inside out. I'm about to show all you folks what it's all about now.
The follow-up never came, not because the talent ran dry, because the vehicle broke down before they could get where they were going. Tag Team became the quintessential 90s nostalgia act. They still perform. They made a Geico commercial off the song's legacy in 2021. And honestly, good for them. But that second chapter they earned, the one the music justified, never arrived. Some of y'all know exactly how that feels. You put in the work, and then something completely outside your control takes it from you. Real talk. Only 9% of you watching this are actually subscribed. That hurts a little, not gonna lie. We spend hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life because this music deserves to be remembered. And you're here because you care about that too. So if these videos mean something to you, if you've ever said, damn, I didn't know that, or felt something while watching, just hit subscribe. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube to show this to more people who love this music like we do. Let's build this together. All right, back to the story. Number 8, Skee-Lo, I Wish. Here's what you probably didn't know about this record. Skee-Lo didn't walk into a major label studio with a team of producers and A&Rs grooming his sound. Antoine Roundtree built the entire I Wish album himself from scratch. In a studio in Hollywood called Sunshine Studios, essentially engineering his own debut with just himself and one collaborator, producer Walter Kander Khan. No machine behind him, just vision and work. I Wish dropped in April 1995 and reached number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album received a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album. The single got nominated for Best Rap Solo Performance. He was competing with Tupac, Biggie Smalls, and Bone Thugs-n-Harmony for that album nomination. A self-built debut going up against the biggest names in hip-hop that year.
I heard that prom night is a bomb night with a hood ratchet and old type of really
And the song worked because it was honest in a way that 1995 hip-hop simply was not. Gangsta rap was dominant. Bravado was the currency. And here comes Skee-Lo talking about wishing he was a little bit taller, wishing he was a baller, wishing he had a rabbit in a hat with a bat.
I wish I was like 6'9" so I can get with Leo.
That vulnerability, that self-deprecating humor in the middle of the most aggressive era in the genre's history, that took something, and it connected with every single person who ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or like they were always the last one picked.
And when I'm in my car, I'm laid back. I got an 8-track and a spare tire in the back seat.
If you've ever tried to explain why you love this song to someone who wasn't there, you already know what I'm about to say. It felt personal. It felt like permission. But here's the part that still doesn't sit right. 5 months after the album came out, Skee-Lo stopped everything. No more videos, no more promotion, no more recording. Not because the music dried up, because his label, Sunshine Records, took all the credit and all the money.
So how am I gonna compete with that? 'Cause when it comes to playing basketball, I'm always
He told them directly, "I'm not your slave, I refuse to work for free." And he walked away from an album that had gone gold without seeing a single check. He eventually won his legal battle years later.
wish I had a brand new car. So far, I got this hatchback, and everywhere I go, yo, I get slapped.
But by then, the radio had moved on, one of the most human records of the entire decade, and the label robbed the man who built it from nothing.
With a bat, a 6'4" ball. I wish I was a little bit taller.
Number 7, Wreckx-n-Effect, Rump Shaker. Before we get into the record itself, you need to understand who was making it. By the time Rump Shaker dropped in August 1992, Wreckx-n-Effect wasn't just a group anymore, they were survivors. One of their founding members, Brandon Mitchell, had been shot and killed before the album was even finished.
Shake it, baby, shake it, don't stop us. Let me see you do the booty hop, and now make the booty stop.
The X in the group's new name, the way they changed the spelling, that was for him. Akil Davidson and Markel Riley walked into that studio carrying real grief, and they made a multi-platinum record out of it. Rump Shaker peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. The only thing that kept it from number 1 was Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You," arguably one of the greatest vocal performances in American music history. You got held off the top spot by that? That's not embarrassment, that's just the particular cruelty of timing. But here's the moment in this story that genuinely stops me every time. The verse performed by Teddy Riley on the track, Markel's older brother and the song's producer, was written by a teenage kid from Virginia Beach named Pharrell Williams. Teddy Riley had just discovered Pharrell at a school talent show, young, unknown, still figuring out what his gift was, and Rump Shaker became Pharrell Williams' first ever published credit. His very first mark on a hit record before the Neptunes, before Nerd, before Happy, before any of it, a 17-year-old kid wrote the verse for a multi-platinum single, and nobody in America knew his name yet. That's the thing about 1992. A future generational talent was standing on the same song as these guys, and the whole world was looking the other way. Wreckx-n-Effect never replicated Rump Shaker. They kept recording, kept working, but the mainstream moved on. The record that launched a legend's career also happened to be the peak of theirs, and that irony, quiet as it is, says everything about how this industry works. Number 6, Snow, Informer. This one is wild from every single angle, and I need you to take it in fully. Snow real name, Darren O'Brien, from Toronto, released Informer in 1993 as a reggae rap hybrid that nobody really knew what to do with. The lyrics were delivered so fast and in such heavy patois that MTV added subtitles to the video, a first for the network. Nobody could fully understand what he was saying, and none of that mattered. The song hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 7 consecutive weeks. That's a run that puts it alongside some of the biggest pop singles in American chart history. And when Informer first reached number 1 on March 13th, 1993, Snow was in a Toronto jail. He had been serving time for assault. His producer, MC Shan, and the team were promoting the record while he was locked up. Snow watched his own music video on the prison lounge television surrounded by his fellow inmates. That is where he found out he had the number 1 song in America from a prison TV, not from a label call, not from a radio station, from a communal television in a correctional facility. And the second week, Informer stayed at number 1. It was holding back Dr. Dre's Nothing But AG Thang, one of the most pivotal records in West Coast rap history, a song that changed the culture. And it couldn't get to #1 because a Canadian reggae artist was singing from a jail cell. But the fall was built into the story from the start. Snow was banned from touring the United States due to his criminal record. You have the #1 song in the country. You cannot go perform it in the country where it's #1. His follow-up, Girl I've Been Hurt, reached #19, but without the ability to work the market in person, the momentum just dissolved. Snow went back to Canada, and America slowly stopped saying his name. That lightning strike moment 7 weeks wide, impossible to repeat. #5, Luniz. I got 5 on it. Oakland, 1995. Yuckmouth and Numbskull, two kids who had been rapping together since middle school, put out a debut single about splitting $5 toward a $10 bag of weed with your homie. Simple concept, deeply relatable premise. I got 5 on it, peaked at #8 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went to #1 in the Netherlands, #2 in Germany, #3 in the United Kingdom. A Bay Area stoner anthem that somehow became an international mainstream record. But here's what the credits don't tell you about the song you actually remember. That hook, that croon, that falsetto that carries the entire track, I got 5 on it. Messing with that N.W.A. That was a Berkeley singer named Michael Marshall, a Bay Area R&B veteran who had been working since the mid-'80s. And Michael Marshall has said publicly that he never received fair compensation from what that song generated over the decades. He felt like he was being erased from his own contribution to a record that's still in heavy rotation 30 years later. The voice that made the song unforgettable and the person behind it felt like a ghost in his own legacy. Luniz themselves couldn't find the mainstream again after that. Their follow-up, Player Hater, registered mostly with Bay Area audiences. Their second and third albums circled back to regional respect, and then the duo quietly drifted apart. But here's the part that gave the song a second life nobody predicted. In 2019, Jordan Peele used a warped, deeply unsettling version of I Got 5 on It in the trailer for his horror film, Us. Whole new generation discovered it through a horror movie. Peele later said the beat had an inherent cryptic energy, something dark underneath the fun that he'd always felt, and whether that's true or not, it proves something. The records that have real soul in them don't disappear. They just wait for the right door to open. #4, I Need Kamoze. Here Comes the Hot Stepper.
Excuse me, Mr. Officer.
I Need Kamoze had been recording music since 1984, albums on Island Records. Respected in Jamaica as a dancehall veteran. By the time Here Comes the Hot Stepper happened, he was 37 years old and had put in 10 years of serious work in the genre.
Act like you know, G-Go. I know what Bo don't know.
This was not an overnight story. This was a decade of grinding before the door finally opened. And the song's journey to the top was just as unconventional as everything else about it.
Here come the hot stepper. I'm the lyrical gangster.
Kamoze had actually recorded the original track back in 1992. Couldn't get a label to buy into it. It eventually got licensed onto a reggae compilation album almost by accident. Producer Salaam Remi, who would later work with Nas, Amy Winehouse, and Alicia Keys, built the beat from a patchwork of samples including Bobby Bird, Doug E. Fresh, and Slick Rick. The song eventually got placed on the soundtrack to Robert Altman's fashion satire Pret-a-Porter at the end of 1994. Radio caught fire, and here comes the Hot Stepper hit number 1 on December 17th, 1994, staying there for 2 weeks. What happened next was everything this industry promises and almost never delivers. Multiple major labels entered a bidding war. I Need Kamoze signed a 7-album deal with Elektra Records in November 1994. Not one of them moved the needle. Here's the specific wound in this story. His debut, Elektra Project, was released at the same time as a Columbia Records compilation album, which Columbia released without his approval, essentially flooding the market with competing product from the same artist at the same time. Whether that was negligence or something worse, the result was the same. The momentum evaporated almost immediately. And just like that, Kamoze went back to Jamaica, kept recording on his own terms. His last album came out in 2016. He's still there, but that one American moment at the peak of the mainstream it lasted 2 weeks, and the machine that was supposed to build on it delivered silence. Number 3, House of Pain, Jump Around.
Jump around. Jump around.
Every stadium, every college campus in America, every time you needed a room to ignite, Jump Around is one of those records that doesn't need an introduction. Your body already knows it. House of Pain, out of Los Angeles, dropped this as their debut single in 1992, and it peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, went platinum. DJ Muggs of Cypress Hill produced the beat, and Everlast wrote the lyrics in his driveway, pulling influence from dancehall patterns he'd been studying. The record crossed every demographic line. Rock crowds, rap crowds, sports arenas, bars at last call. It still shakes the foundations of the University of Wisconsin football stadium on game days 30 years later, but the follow-up Shamrocks and Shenanigans stalled at number 65. Then who's the man? Number 96. House of Pain put out 2 more albums after the debut, but Jump Around was the only record that ever truly broke through the mainstream ceiling. By 1996, the group had dissolved. And what happened to each member afterward is one of the more scattered post-breakup stories in the culture. DJ Lethal, the turntable specialist, went and joined Limp Bizkit, rode that into stadium shows and MTV dominance in the late 90s. Danny Boy fought serious addiction for years, eventually finding sobriety in 2005, and Everlast went solo. But here's the moment you need to hear. The day Everlast finished recording his solo album Whitey Ford Sings the Blues, the project that would eventually sell 3 million copies and rebuild his entire legacy. That same day, he was rushed to the hospital. Torn aortic valve. His heart was filling with blood. He nearly died the day he completed the record that would be his comeback. And if that's not a metaphor for what the 90s cost some of these artists, the physical and emotional price they paid for the art, then I don't know what is. You build something, you sacrifice to finish it, and the finish line almost kills you. Number 2, Digable Planets, Rebirth of Slick, Cool Like Dat.
How was the buzz entire hip-hop era? Was fresh in fact since they started saying...
Now some of y'all are already in the comments typing they had more than one hit, and I hear you. Stay with me. Ishmael Butler, Mary Ann Vieira, and Craig Irving Butterfly, Ladybug Mecca, and Doodlebug. Yeah. Three poets from different parts of the country who found each other and built something that had absolutely no business working on mainstream radio in 1993. Jazz samples, slow, deliberate delivery.
Jazz like that, we freak like that, we zoom like that. We out, we out.
Lyrics that could reference Thelonious Monk and street culture in the same sentence. Digable Planets were the antithesis of everything charting that year, and yet Rebirth of Slick, Cool Like Dat peaked at number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100.
I'm cool like that, I'm cool like that, I'm cool.
You want to know what it's built on? A loop from Stretch by Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers 1964 recording. They flipped a 60-year-old jazz session into one of the coolest hip-hop records of the decade. And then they walked into the 1994 Grammy Awards and won Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group. Here's The Betrayal. Their second album, Blowout Comb, dropped in 1994. Critics who understood it called it deeper, more radical, more politically developed than anything on the debut.
We beat to rap, what key beat to lock, but I'm cool like that.
It's considered a masterwork by people who know, but their label, Pendulum Records, a subsidiary of Elektra, gave it almost no marketing support, no radio push, no promotional budget.
Chill like that, I'm chill like that, I'm chill like that, I'm chill like that.
The same Elektra infrastructure that would fail I Need Kamoze the very next year had already quietly let Digable Planets sink. The group dissolved not long after.
Peace like that, I'm peace like that, I'm peace like that, I'm peace like that.
Butterfly spent years outside the mainstream before re-emerging as Shabazz Palaces in Seattle, building a cult following that recognized the genius that had been there all along. The other members each moved on in different directions.
Shit, like 60s funky worms with waves and perms, just sending junky rhythms right down.
I'll be honest with you, whether Digable Planets count as a one-hit wonder or not is actually a legitimate debate, and that debate itself is the point.
Petra Jones.
And I'm chill like that, I'm chill like that, I'm chill like that.
Some acts get dismissed as one-hit wonders, not because they only had one brilliant thing in them, but because the label never gave the second and third thing a real chance to live.
Now he boogies up your stage, plats twist the braids, and I'm peace like that.
Drop your take in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you land on this one.
Fatter joints called undergrounds. Our funk zooms like you hit the Mary Jane.
Number 1, Craig Mack, Flavor in Your Ear. Let me ask you something real quick. When you think about Bad Boy Records, who's the first name that comes to mind? Be honest, it's Biggie, maybe Puff, maybe Maze if you're from that specific era. Almost nobody says Craig Mack first. And that is the injustice I want you to sit with right now, because it goes deeper than a one-hit wonder story. This is a story about what this industry does to the people who actually build it. Flavor in Your Ear by Craig Mack was released July 2nd, 1994. It was the first single Bad Boy Records ever put out. Not Biggie, not Puff. He was the foundation.
And if you didn't know who's rhyming, I guess I'm gonna say Craig Mack with perfect.
The debut that showed the industry and the streets that this new label out of New York was not a joke. The song peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and spent 14 consecutive weeks at number 1 on Billboard's Hot Rap Songs chart. That was a record at the time.
But here comes a brand new flavor in your ear. Time for new flavor in your ear.
Easy Mo B's metallic production and Craig Mack's skittering abstract flow hit the culture like a siren.
This brand new sheriff that's in town, getting down, leaving bodies buried in the.
And here's the thing about the remix. The Flavor in Your Ear remix featuring Biggie, LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes, and Rampage is considered one of the greatest posse cuts ever assembled.
Flavor in your ear. Here comes the brand new flavor in your ear.
Rolling Stone put it on their 500 greatest songs list, but that remix was the moment the spotlight permanently shifted. Because what people realized after the remix dropped was that the new kid on the label, the B.I.G, had a different gear.
Flavor in your ear. High back dope with more hope than the Pope.
And the industry pivoted hard. Biggie's debut, Ready to Die, dropped exactly 1 week after Craig Mack's album. And from that point forward, Craig Mack's story became a footnote in someone else's legend.
Bet your price come by fatter. I got the data.
Puff Daddy sat in front of MTV cameras in 1994 and said they were working on Craig Mack's second album coming January 1995. There's actual footage of that interview with Craig sitting right there. His face says everything. That second Bad Boy album never came.
Flavor in your air, Max, a brand new flavor in your air. Here comes the brand new.
Craig eventually left the label and released Operation Get Down on a different imprint in 1997. Nobody in the mainstream noticed. And then Craig Mack did something that confused a lot of people.
I set up rhymes for a decoy down for Bad Boy.
And honestly, the more you understand what he'd been through, the more it makes sense. He left the industry entirely, moved to Walterboro, South Carolina, found faith, joined a religious community, and walked away from everything this game had promised him and taken back.
Time for new flavor in your ear. I'm kicking new flavor in your.
Craig Mack died on March 12, 2018. He was 47 years old. His headstone reads, "Praise the Lord." He put Bad Boy on the map with the very first record they ever released. He handed Puff Daddy the foundation everything else was built on.
But for MCs, more knots than rope. I'd like to break it down, breaking, forsaken.
And the culture barely stopped to notice when he was gone. That's not just a one-hit wonder story. That's a story about what happens when an industry decides your value is transactional and what it costs a person when they realize it.
You in the blab, robotic kicking flab, or flavor bit of batter, chitter chatter.